welcome back to Becoming Branches. My name's Adam Cook. Right next to me is the awesome Dustin McKinney. Our guest, Barry and Angela Brown. Guys, how are you and welcome back?
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Doing very well.
I had so much fun with our last time here. So much information. In fact, I was talking to my wife when you guys were watching. Mr. Barry Brown said that at dinner table, you bring all your kids together, and right after dinner is ending or that time, you immediately do devotions. Mm-hmm. And a light bulb went off in my head because when we are at home, my wife and I also bring all the kids together. We have three. So let's see, it's 12, almost 12, 9, and 6 years old. We try to do devotions at bedtime. Well, sometimes that works out great, but a lot of times it doesn't because they're out playing football. They come back sweaty. One's chewing on something and throwing something. But when they're all there at dinner, you're already right there at the table. Man, that's good stuff.
Yes.
I can't wait to get into this again.
Yeah, and for those who were with us the last time we were talking, we had left off on our conversation about discipline as parents and how do we do this well as a kid. And you gave us some really good nuggets, but I feel like there still might be some nuggets of wisdom out there. So I really want to hand it back over to you guys and share with us more as you think about how you discipline your kids and the things that you've learned over the years. What are some maybe good do's and don'ts for us younger parents?
Well, a couple things. Consistency.
That's so important.
Yeah. Between us, as far as disciplining and what needs to be done, but also
So we need to be on the same page.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be consistent each time, which is why an thin chart is great because Pastor Roger and Lori had one on the front of their refrigerator. The boys knew if they did this, this would be the result.
Right.
Sin has a natural consequence.
Yeah.
And there was no debating, no, I'm angry. It was just, you've done this. This is what happened.
That's incredible because, Dustin, how many times have you as a young father, your child has done something and your discipline wavers on how you feel or how they approach you?
It's so true. And even things as small as like, am I tired? Like, I don't even want to deal with this, so just go.
Exactly.
But it does, and that's why parenting is purposeful, it's intentional, and I really liked what you guys said about being on the same page. Because one thing that we've been talking about, and not to dip back into other roles, but we are better as parents when we are really making sure that we're established as a husband and a wife.
Right.
Like, we have to be on the same page. We have to be connected with one another, both of us chasing after the Lord. And if we do that and we're loving each other and respecting each other, our parenting is going to be better.
Yeah.
Especially when you are dealing with those things like, a kid does this in front of Barry and he does it in front of Angie. Does he get somewhat of the same results?
Because you guys immediately went off the chart. So it didn't matter if child A sinned or did something in front of you or you. It's like, oh, what's the chart say? That is so cool. I've never thought of that because my kids will sometimes do something totally different in front of Christina. They're like, oh man, Dad's home. I'm not gonna do it that extreme or something. But the chart's the chart, and the discipline's the discipline. I haven't heard of that. That's really good.
Idea. So what other nuggets of truth might you have for us?
Well, just real quick, never discipline in anger.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Because it can get out of control. We tried to emphasize love as we disciplined. And then there was a vital point in our hearts that they understood that they were forgiven.
Yes.
That this wasn't a burden that they had to keep carrying as they go.
Even if they were struggling with the same issue over and over, we were not holding those past offenses against them.
Right.
It's just, let's deal with today. And as we deal with each today, eventually we're going to get this figured out.
Yeah.
And that's something I think, my dad was not a perfect dad. No dad is, but that's something I think he did really well, is he never disciplined in anger. He always was very forthcoming on this is why this is happening. And he always told me that he loved me. And he was quick to say that I was forgiven. And by doing that, what a great picture or introduction to Jesus and his love and his forgiveness that we get to that we get to model for our kids, which is something that we're called to do.
Right.
So that's really good.
Just one other thought I had that we hadn't really talked about prior to this, but you always want to make sure the kids know what you expect. I remember the first time we took 4 of them to a wedding. It was in the middle of summer, and thinking, this is going to be great fun. But we sat down and talked to them about the importance of a wedding, what it meant, what a special day it was for these 2 people who were getting married, how we didn't want to interfere with it, and how we expected them to behave.
Right.
And it was a perfect day. We did not have a single problem. And then after the wedding was over, we praised them like they had just, done the biggest thing that had ever happened. So training is not only correcting wrong behavior, but it is making sure over and over and over we are setting in front of them the desired behavior. That's the big part, is the positive side. There should be 3 positive sides for every negative side.
And you hear that a lot with teenagers who are struggling in the home life of bad grades, or they're like, well, my parents let me do whatever. They think that's cool in front of their friends, but that tears them up because the parents need to set that expectation. No, I need you to get these grades. I need you to do this. I need to raise that expectation, and kids need that. Yeah. And I think when parents don't do that because they're tired or maybe they don't know what they're doing, or they're flustered, or maybe the mom and dad aren't on the same page, and that'll start to tip over. And the balance, again, what you said, Pastor Dustin, is the husband and wife under the authority of Jesus. When that's all in alignment, your boat, even though it's stormy, is not going to sit there and tip and capsize because you're steady on ahead. And that's so important.
No, I love that proactive expectations. If you were around for Mother's Day sermon second service, our youngest Harrison ventured up on the stage, and I was so mad. And after service, I looked at Alexandra and I said, "You know what we didn't do? We didn't tell Harrison this is the expectation." And if we had, he may have still ventured out. If we tell him though, he's pretty good at following the command or whatever. But I was like, we did not clearly share our expectations. So good job. That's a great one. So we've been talking about discipline of little ones. But if your kids didn't stay little, eventually they grew up.
Speaking of that, they're all like 6'6". My God.
Yes, you do have some tall kids. Man. That's very true. So they grew up, they became teenagers. So did you find your discipline or even your communication or just general attitude towards your kids? Did you find yourself making any adjustments as they grew older?
I need this one because I have a preteen and I'm already starting to snap a little bit when I shouldn't have, those comebacks. So please, I'm all ears. So I really need to.
Well, the first thing was the type of discipline had to change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because things you can do with little kids, you can't do with teenagers, especially when
your sons are bigger than you.
Yeah.
So like spankings, for example.
Yeah.
Right, would probably
bigger switches.
Yeah. We did, one of the things we did keep is the openness and communication.
Sure.
Around the table as a family. But we also adapted that there were times that there were things that they were going through that we just needed to talk to them individually away from the other siblings. So, if it was something that would benefit all 4, it was open. But we never wanted to embarrass or put one of the other siblings in a position with their brothers and sisters.
That means you don't just yell.
Yeah.
Which seems obvious, but in the moment it may not be obvious.
Yeah.
You can't just openly let loose vocally on them. So, there are things that need to be private and dealt with privately.
Sure.
So that you don't wound. We don't want to wound them.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
One of the other things I think we adjusted was physical support. I mean, they're entering a new stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
We went out of our way to be there in the things that they were involved in. In fact, the reason we got our first cell phone was because we were going in different directions for sports and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could communicate with each other what was going on and what not. But Outside of that, just the biggest thing, I think the adjustment we gave them was we had to come to demonstrate trust.
Mm-hmm.
We had to allow them more freedom,
Mm.
as well as freedom to fail within limits.
I hope all you're paying good attention. I'm just soaking this in. This is really good stuff.
So it's really important to understand that they don't turn 18 or graduate high school and suddenly they're adults and have it all together.
Mhm.
That children day by day are being prepared for adulthood.
Yeah.
And during those preteen, it really starts preteen years, and especially teenage years, that's going on big time. And there's this struggle, and there were struggles for us, but that struggle is not really a struggle with you, it's a struggle within them, figuring out this child becoming oneself,
Yeah.
and so we wanted to give them room to try things, to figure things out, and to fail where it's safe. In confine and
Break
let
this
those
down.
boundaries
Good.
get a little bigger and a little bigger, but we don't want them to go off to college and then be thrown into the world and have to figure all this out on their own. We want them step by step to have a few more privileges, a few more responsibilities, and to be able to fail where it's not going to get them thrown in jail,
Right.
or thrown out of school. So that's what those struggles are in the teenage years, and so you gotta be okay with. There are going to be some things that happen when they're teenagers that you're going to go, I didn't ever want that to happen.
Yeah.
But it's okay because God's taking care of it.
Right.
And as long as you're in the Word and in a body, worshiping together and serving together, God's got it under control.
That's good stuff.
That is really good
Because
stuff.
when you overparent, if that's even a term,
Well, yeah.
when you overparent, you try to lock everything down. You do that almost in this, I don't want anything to happen to my son or my daughter. But if you do that I think causes that rebellious, because they're gonna get out of that proverbial lock you've got on them. It's just natural.
Right.
And what you said was great. 18, 19, you think, okay, you're grown or whatever, but they're really not. And looking back, I mean, Dustin, we were 17, 18, 19.
a couple years ago.
For you. But when you're in that mentality, you do think you're pretty much got it, right? And you're, I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm out of high school, I'm this. But now I'm almost 40 and I'm looking back like, man, I'm just now starting to get it together, So that's good stuff. I think that's important to know that just because you might have an 18-year-old at home and you're like, gee whiz, what do we do at this stage? Because admittedly, it was a little awkward between my dad and I. I got back from radio college and I kind of moved back and I'm in his front room. He's like, hey, like, what do we do? And so that's good to know that, hey, they're 18-year-olds,
Well,
they're not all there. So.
that's another good segue into our next question, because now your kids are grown.
Right.
And so your role as parent has kind of changed. So describe your role as a parent currently. What types of things do God-honoring parents do with their
Grandparents even.
kids
Grandparents.
when their kids are grown and left the house?
Well, one of the things, just as a way of encouragement, Mark Twain also said this: when I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in such years. So, one of the things as dealing with kids as grown-ups is they still call us. I need to talk to you about this. I need your advice on this. And so what we've come to learn is that we are advisors through encouragement. That's great. But what if you tried this? Or what if you added this step? So we encourage them, just being available, knowing that they can call 24/7. And the big thing at that point is listening, first and foremost. Just sometimes they just got to talk. And, they may not want us to fix the problem. Or if they do, we tend to wait for them to ask.
We also have to respect their autonomy at that point.
Yeah.
So understand that we give them advice they may or may not take,
Right.
and they have, they're adults. That's their option. It's their right.
And then I guess the last thing we do is verbal praise. I mean, we are impressed with how Brandon and Elizabeth are raising their boys. And so we try to go out of our way to make sure we tell them, you are doing a very good job, and we are so proud of you.
That's awesome.
So,
Because even when you're grown, you still crave those things
Yeah.
from your parents, and it really does impact your mental fortitude or your motivation when you get those things. Now, thankfully, with God, we have those things, but God uses parents to help bring about a lot of that
Yes.
stuff. So,
Man, it's good
Good
stuff, guys. This is
stuff.
unfortunately all the time we have. This is one of those deep conversations. I'm learning as we're going.
yeah.
I'm taking mental notes. I hope you are too. What a blessing you guys have been. We're going to get, hopefully, these guys back for another episode. I'm so excited.
Amen.
This is our trilogy. We love trilogies. And thank you so much, guys. Cannot wait to see you for next time.